Hola! As you can see, once again, I am here recording from my garden. And this is because I really like the format of the previous video and I wanted to just keep trying it. I guess being surrounded by nature makes it feel a lot more casual and personal, and this is something that I want to keep portraying in my videos. So let me know what you think about it. In this video, I want to share with you what has happened in the past month, in particular, photograph, because this month of August has been super busy, photographically speaking. This is because at the beginning of the month, there was a period of 10 days here in Bali called Galungan and Kuningan, in which for 10 days there are ceremonies everywhere in the island. On the first day of the ceremonies, which is called Galungan, I was invited by my friend Michael to a temple in a place called Tegal Suchi, which is some 30 minutes to an hour north of Ubud. And I had never been to this temple, so it's always very interesting to go to a new temple and just discover this new world. Because even though most Balinese temples follow very specific structures, every temple has their own particularities. As a foreigner, I really never know what to expect when I go to a new temple in particular. So it's always a little bit uncomfortable maybe to go at the beginning, just because you don't know how will people react, what will people think of you. Am I dressed Balinese enough to be inside the temple? So these are the type of things that one needs to defeat and overcome when documenting ceremonies here in Bali. And thankfully though, for the most part, I've discovered that people are very welcoming. For a while now, I've been trying to document ceremonies in a little bit of a different way, because I've seen that most photographers here documenting ceremonies in Bali, they focus mostly in the ceremony itself. What I mean by this is, for example, if there's a procession with offerings walking through the streets, they will follow the procession all the way from the beginning to the end, without taking too much notice to the things that are happening around it. And this is exactly the type of things that I've been most interested in the past few months. So rather than just focusing one main topic, what I like to do is just look around and see the mundane moments that are happening while people wait for the ceremony to start, while the ceremony is happening, and also at the end. This has been a little bit of a challenge because while the ceremony is happening, there are so many visually interesting things that it's hard to pay attention to the not so visually striking things. And it takes some mental exercise to be able to remove my attention from that thing that is happening over there that is calling my attention so much, and instead focus on these more quiet aspects of a ceremony. For example, in the case of this ceremony in Tegal Suchi, one of my favorite moments was when the whole community went outside the temple and started gathering around a warung, which is a local type of restaurant, and they just sat there eating, drinking coffee, and talking to each other after the ceremony. And documenting this to me is one of those aspects that are so important because, in my perspective, it humanizes this idea that we have of Bali, because most of the things that I see online, at least, focus only in this idealized version of what we think in the West that Bali is. And that sometimes misses what I think is the most interesting thing, which is the reality of everyday life. Another of my favorite moments in this ceremony was that I had the opportunity to, for the first time, take photos of a group of dancers called Baris Gede, which I had seen, but I've never had the opportunity of directly talk with them. So I was very grateful when I had the opportunity of sitting with them and talking with them while they were laughing and resting and waiting for the ceremony to keep going. Similarly, a few days later, I was taking photos of a group of kids that was playing gamelan and dancing with their barong costumes inside the main tourist market of Ubud. And this was, to me, super interesting because I've been particularly trying to document the impact of tourism in the island, and this to me was like one of the best moments, because on one side I have the tourist industry trying to do their thing walking through the main alley that is completely blocked by the other side, which is the traditional aspect of Bali, and that doesn't care at all whether a tourist can walk or not. The kids were just playing and dancing and asking for money from the vendors and the business owners, while the tourists on the other side were just like being crushed and bothered by the noise and all the chaos that was happening around it. That to me is exactly the type of things that I've been looking for. And it was just super fun to be in this environment. The last day of the ceremonies is called Kuningan. And for this day, I went to a temple in Mas, which is a city very close to Ubud. The interesting thing about this temple is that it's very famous for being the origin temple of hundreds, if not thousands of families here in Bali. So a lot of people were coming throughout 5 days to pay their respects. So you can imagine the temple was mega crowded, in particular on the day of Kuningan and the day after, which was a Sunday as well. For me, these 2 days were like an incredible playground for photography. In particular because I found that here in Bali it's very hard to find massive groups of people in crowds like one finds in New York, for example. So when I come across a big crowd like it happened during that weekend in Mas, well, I had to take the opportunity. And again, rather than focus most of my energy in trying to document the ceremonies as it was happening, my main topic of interest was what was happening around the ceremony. So I gave myself the task of walking around and talking to people, taking their portraits, and just trying to learn either their origins, what they did, or a little bit more of the culture and the reasons why the ceremony was happening the way it was happening. And I think my favorite part of all this is that rather than having to chase around like crazy for something to photograph, taking a step back has given me the opportunity to just sit and look at the things and wait for a good moment to come to me, and I just go and snap it. There's no need to be chasing. So yeah, that was the 10 days period of Galungan and Kuningan here in Bali. The main takeaway from this period for me is the fact that rather than keep going around and trying to photograph new things, what I need to do is to take a step back and look at all the things that I've been documenting for the past year. Do my sequencing, see what makes sense, see what doesn't make sense, and then from there decide what are my next steps. Part of the anxiety that I've been feeling for the past few months and part of the things that I've been sharing in the previous videos is the fact that I felt lost in a sort of roadblock. Because even though I was enjoying the process of taking photos, whenever I was looking at the results, I wasn't feeling like I was getting anything or getting at anything. Like I was just doing it just for the sake of doing it. And even though there's importance in doing things just for the sake of doing it, an important part of my own creative process is to actually sit back and analyze things. This is the frustrating part of being a creative being. Because no matter how much I search for answers out there, hoping that somebody will give me a sort of guide or a how to make things happen, I am the one that has to create my own process for myself. And I can make it painful or I can enjoy doing it while I do it. So, yeah. This is where I am today. I hope you enjoy these photos. Please let me know your thoughts. Let me know any comments that you might have. Share your own creative process. Share somebody else's creative process. Why not? I'm pretty sure that as much as I say that I have to create my own process, the more information I have, the more information we all have, the better. I hope to see you soon. Peace.